Hey Radical Ones, we continue Sword and Sorcery Summer today with 1985's Return to Oz. It's time to get radical.
There's something really special that I've been promising to show you.
What would you do to get him?
Grab him and take him. Take him. Like that.
Hey, look! A Dungeons and Dragons ride!
Yes! Let this be our final battle!
I have my eyes, I have my cunning, and now I have strength.
A never-ending adventure new for your Nintendo Entertainment System. Zelda!
You must find a champion, bold of heart, and pure in spirit.
Champion? What champions?
Welcome back, Radical Ones, to another episode of the Radical Retro Rewind podcast. As always, I am your host, Radical Ryan Hunter, and it's one of those special three-way episodes with Brother David and Rob the Movie Geek along with me for this fun ride of Return to Oz.
Hi, everyone. Good to be back. Excited for today's movie.
It's great to be here with my two favorite co-hosts. My only, but, you know, they're still my favorite.
Thank you.
This summer, Walt Disney Pictures presents a motion picture fantasy adventure beyond your fondest imagination. You'll be transported miraculously back to the enchanted land of Oz, that magical kingdom beloved by young and old for generations.
It's just a yellow brick.
No, Billina, you don't understand. This was the yellow brick road.
You'll share with Dorothy Gale the shock of finding everything mysteriously changed.
What's happened to everybody?
And you'll delight with her discovery of 4 wonderful new friends who band together against a wicked queen and the dreaded Gnome King. This is the Oz you haven't seen before, and this is the Oz you'll want to visit again and again. From Walt Disney Pictures comes a whole new world of entertainment.
Why don't we just fly back to Kansas?
Return to Oz.
So, of course, we are doing Sword and Sorcery Summer. This one was a long month. We got a lot of movies this month. Return to Oz is one of the oddballs, right, in this kind of Sword and Sorcery movies. We kind of talked about it last week, Rob, when we did Dragonheart, that this one is more of a mythical sense of Sword and Sorcery and, you know, that's feeling of adventure. So, how did the two of you, and David, I know, because I grew up with you, but walk me through how you discovered Return to Oz and, you know, your general feeling.
I don't know exactly. It's not like somebody sat me down and was like, Return to Oz, watch it. It's probably something that was on, and it was very similar to The Wizard of Oz. And I watched all of that puppetry, movies, Jim Henson and all of that. So it kind of just fit in. I wish I could tell you how. It might have just been a rental, but again, with its similarities, it obviously caught my attention. And with that being said, how dark it was obviously up my alley. So it just became a favorite of mine to continue to watch. But I think it also correlated with the Worst Witch. And I was just in this Fairuza Balk sort of mentality and was like, oh, look who it is. I know who she is. Let me watch. And it involved witches and all of that stuff. So yeah, I just kind of latched onto it and never, forgot about it.
And David, how did it's June 21st, by the way, of 1985. I mean, I know we had this on Dad's bootleg VHS last recording. So we had this movie, and I remember always watching it, but I don't know how we came upon this. Do you remember?
I don't, but what I can say is much like a lot of the other movies that we discuss, we kind of fixated on it. For me, the expectation was I was going to get a continuation of The Wizard of Oz. This is completely different. This actually is so I don't think I would even. I know isn't it based off of a book, something Ozma of Oz or something?
Two,
like that?
Actually, they combined.
Yeah, The Land of Oz and Ozma of Oz. Yes.
So I don't know, but I know we watch it a lot, and I also know that being the way we are, we picked apart things, we made fun of certain things, and we were like kind of comparing the two, which is completely, they're completely different in that way.
So this is actually a prime example of maybe one of the first, I guess, in my memory, if I go back, this is what's considered a requel. So it's a reboot / sequel. The timeline is after the original, but it has no connection whatsoever. It's sort of rebooting it, but still remembering everything that happened from the first and not, forgetting about what happened. And it fits because it's also based on a book series. If this was just out of the blue, just a movie, it would not make sense to kind of do this. Evil Dead is another example of that, where it was a sequel, but still they kind of just rebooted it and start over. I was actually curious what your thoughts on requels. Like, do you feel they're just cash grabs, or do you feel that with artistic expression that writers and directors have an ability to not forget what came in the past, but then put their own spin on it and give you, a different, take? Do requels, or would you just prefer just straight sequels?
I would say, Rob, because they have Fairuza, and by the way, this is a long time coming. Fairuza Balk. Oh my god, I did it so good the last time. Now I'm messing it up. Fairuza Balk was so much younger than Judy Garland that I think they had to kind of go back, like you're saying, and make it that version of, oh, this is the Tin Man. This is what the Cowardly Lion really looked like. So I actually don't mind it. It's so many years after that movie was made to, I think, make a direct sequel would probably maybe not work as much. So I am okay with that idea, Rob, of the remake and a sequel together.
I actually like the idea of it as well. I don't have anything against it. One of the things in the movie that Auntie M says to Dorothy is, it's been 6 months since the tornado. So I kind of like that, because then in my mind, this is a continuation, even though it is more of a reboot. I was just glad that Fairuza didn't get touched up and assaulted by small men the whole time like Garland did.
Just her casting alone, when you look back at Wizard of Oz now, to me, I look at Judy Garland as 30. I mean, I know she wasn't, but, and then you look at her and she's a child, really like what Dorothy should have been. That just takes you out right away, because you're like, this isn't Judy Garland, but she really is a kid. She really is a little girl. So the 6 months, by the way, I did love that they added that in. They factored it, and the house looked destroyed. I think it added to this creepiness.
I do like that the house, like, there was repercussions of this tornado. I mean, you can't just sweep Dorothy up and skip the house. Like, they were in its path, and there were, an outcome from that. The house got destroyed. We have to build another one. So I do like that sort of connection realism with the story. One other question before we go on. Did you guys believe that Wizard of Oz, the original, was a dream sequence or in her head? Or do you believe that it was real, and then we get this sequel, and then it's like giving you that same ambiguity of, is it real or is it not? Where did you guys sort of stand when you grew up with this and then sort of watched the sequel, connected it? Did you ever come to the conclusion that it is all in her head or it is all real, or do you separate the two with different outcomes?
So for me, if we're going with the premise that this is just all in her head, then this is a really big story about mental health. Because he's living a delusional fantasy. I mean, yes, she dreamt, quote unquote, she could have dreamt it all. But the thing is that both movies, well, actually not really. The original Wizard of Oz ends it where she's in a bed waking up from this traumatic event with her uncles around her and the whole thing. That makes you believe that it was a dream the whole time. Where in this new version, she is still seeing the character Ozma in the looking glass through the mirror, even though she's back in her own reality. So I feel like they are different in that case. I think the original, I want to believe it's a fantasy world. I want to believe that there's a, Willy Wonka. I want to believe the whole shebang, because that's the kid in me. But the first movie definitely is telling you, no, it's in my mind, it's not real. She's been this whole time in a coma like state, and then she wakes up. And the other one is, it is real because she got sent back, and then she can see Ozma in the mirror when she's home. So that's how I'm looking at it.
Unless she's having like a schizophrenic, and Billina actually died and she didn't want to face it either, like kind of thing.
Listen, Ryan, if
Billina.
you took a tornado and then went through another storm, every time you heard anything in a wind going, forget it. If she was in Legend, she would have freaked out. She heard the wind whipping up. She would have started screaming. Another storm.
I can honestly say, as someone who was in the room, and I talked about this on Brunch with the Hollowells once, when thunder struck my ceiling when I was listening to S Club 7. I don't know, maybe that was a sign. I had post-traumatic for a few months. Every time I heard thunder, I thought the roof was going to collapse. And so I could imagine if Dorothy went through this, 100%. Yes, I believe, she can make this up.
But did you talk to a chicken?
I would have. I guess I would say, Rob, as a young kid, I believed it's real. And now as I'm getting older, I'm thinking of it in that cynical way that it, but I do agree with David. Out of the two, I'll say Return to Oz because of the mirror, the mirror shot.
I was very inclined to think that Return to Oz was very much real, but it's the whole thing of Dorothy setting herself up to be Kaiser Sose. Like, she did it to herself. Like, they made sure that there were so many elements from the real world pulled into her Oz adventure. TikTok is there, and
even the pail, right? The lunch pail she has is put on the Wheeler's gurney.
Yeah, the lunch pail, the Wheelers, the Gnome King, all of that. She Kaiser Sose'd herself. She took all these elements and created another world again. And then when she gets out, then sort of the repercussions of what happened in Oz happened in real life. So they correlate with each other. And I don't know if she's like sleepwalking and witnessing all of this and then creating it in Oz. But like, if it wasn't for all of that, I would have more of a definite answer. Correct me if I'm wrong. When she in the original was like, you were there and you were there, were those the exact actors playing the friend? Okay, so it's little stuff like that I'm just like, girl, you just need some therapy, because like, I can't associate this with realism if you're going to like make all of the actors the same characters in Oz. It's just, to me, logically, I don't think that it was real. But
Uncle Henry, get the lithium. She's acting up again.
I was trying to look for evidence of something either brought back with her or something that kind of indicates
key, I guess.
But like, again, she wouldn't let anyone witness like looking at it or holding it, or I mean, yes, she pointed the key to Aunt Em, but like, okay, that could still be a key from anywhere. It just magically worked in her head when she went to Oz. So I don't know. I don't want to like, debunk your thoughts on it. It's just, for me, I would want more secure evidence from, it's the same with Alice in Wonderland. I will never really know until I get evidence
that movie.
And that's the thing. She's like, Aunt Em, come look at this mirror. She's like, I got you. Now I'm about to show the receipts. She's like, no. We're not doing that.
So Rob, do you think that Ozma is what she would want to be in this fantasy world? Like, that is her? She's personifying that when she looks in the mirror, that's who she wants to be from this magical world? Like, she wants to be Ozma?
Or she's a lesbian, by the way. I thought she was in love with Ozma. I got total, like, for the first time in my life, I don't know. Anyway.
I mean, I would have to think about that a little bit more. What I would say is that if she really did want to be queen, she would have stayed. Like, she really told herself, like, I gotta go back. I can't stay here. Here is your rightful queen. Like, she's here. I think it's a way of escaping, I don't want to say she had a, personality disorder, but she definitely channeled how her life would be if she was Ozma. And I think just her helping, because like when the doctor comes out of the doorway and she goes, she points a flashlight, she just says you. She doesn't say who the two of you are or whatever.
It was, she sees maybe.
She probably didn't even see Ozma, and then she just suddenly disappears. Like, it could go either way.
Who's there? Quick! We have to get you out of here.
Their patients have been damaged. Locked in the cellar. Quick!
And how did Billina get there too? That's what I always say. Like, how did Billina blow into that crate into Oz?
Yeah.
Like, she wasn't involved at that either. So it might
And
be.
you notice she tells Toto to go home because Toto can't go with her, and that sets up the fact that you have to have Billina come with her as her companion,
Yeah.
her spirit animal.
Did you notice the doctor when he was interviewing her in the beginning? He had a ruby ring.
Yes.
No, I didn't even.
Yeah, he was wearing a ruby ring.
Smart.
Yeah. So, I mean, either way, I think it's fine. I still, go into the escapism of it all. So it doesn't take anything away from the movie, but I just always wonder, you're one of two people, and I was just curious which side you guys fell on.
This is a unofficial sequel / remake of the 1939 Metro film. Is it Metro Golden Mayer? The film The Wizard of Oz, and it's based on the early 20th century Oz novels. In this plot, an insomniac Dorothy returns to the land of Oz to find it's been conquered by the wicked Gnome King and his accomplice, Princess Mombi. She must restore Oz with her new friends, Billina, Tick-Tock, Jack Pumpkinhead, and Gump. Oh, and Princess Ozma at the end. That's what they just... Oh, and Ozma.
And Jack Skellington.
Jack Skeleton, right? 100%. I always think that. Let's bring up, what do you believe Siskel and Ebert thought of the 1985 film?
You would think I'd know them so well, but the fact that you're presenting it as a question this time, I want to say that they actually liked it.
Recently, they surprised us. I think it was an episode with Rob we did where they actually liked the movie, which was odd. So that's recent. David, you say no. David gave us 2 thumbs way down.
I'm going to say they don't like anything ever that I like, so that's why I'm saying it. But I want to also make a point when you're done with that, so come back to me.
No surprise, it is the worst film of 1985.
Oh my goodness.
It's not a musical.
So?
It doesn't have Judy Garland. This is amazing. I know. It's too scary for kids.
I agree with that.
True.
And the special effects aren't that great, which to me is absolutely insane because they did state-of-the-art things on this movie, down to stop-motion animation.
Because you sit there, even if you're a critic paid to sit there, you sit there thinking, what am I doing with my life watching this picture? And Return to Oz was such a lousy film that I'll always resent that it stole 2 hours of my life. When I'm dying, I want you to know, if you're at my funeral, I want you to know, I'll be there thinking, I could have lived 2 hours longer, or happier.
I'll say a few words over your grave. He would have had 2 hours more happiness if it hadn't been for Return to Oz.
Thank you very much. This is supposed to be the film that was more true to the Oz book. But they made changes from the book it was based on, and they still made a trashy picture, a trashy-looking film with none of the joys of the classic Judy Garland Oz film. Well, you know what I like most about the picture? The hen. I've said this before, I'll say it again. You know you're in trouble when your favorite character in a movie is a hen that only has a bit part.
This movie was amazing. It starts out with Dorothy being left overnight at the house of a strange
Unbelievable.
surgeon. Then she's given shock treatments. Then she's swept away in a flood. By the time the movie is half an hour old, the kids in the audience are probably scared to death. It was not an upbeat children's film.
Absolutely wrong, and I was so glad that the audience rejected it. Unfortunately, I had to see it first.
I would say that, yeah, if you're not impressed with the special effects, that's fine, but that's if you're comparing it to stuff.
Right.
To me, the movie still looked authentically real for the world that was created. I believed every word of it, especially when, like, the Wheelers turned to sand. That shit was, like, not fun to look at. For a child's movie in the 80s, just when the gnome and the rock faces was moving around, I believed all of that.
Yep.
TikTok looked freaking amazing.
I thought it was
that design
amazing.
is so good, and I actually really enjoy the sort of bubbly animated live action mix of our original characters, the way that they look now. Just the face of the Scarecrow and his subtle changes in emotion, but just like the Tin Man looks very cartoon, but he's yet real. Like, I really enjoyed all of that. So yeah, if you're going to compare it, yes, I would totally agree, but I found all of it to be believable.
David, what did you want to say about this
So
topic?
I had 2 points. So I want to go back for 1 minute, and then I'm going to answer your question. What I could talk about my good old friends Siskel and Ebert. Dorothy is very sullen and traumatized from the
Definitely.
experience she had from the tornado. Uncle Henry must be a drunk or something because he's never doing anything building the house. And Aunt Em says,
he's super depressed.
"You don't sleep and you're no help to me on the farm," basically, Aunt Em says to Dorothy.
She got that huge sigh. She's like, I gotta deal with this husband who ain't doing shit right now.
What was the thing she said? I wrote this down. I never realized this. The uncle's leg. She mentions Aunt Em. It's his leg, and she says it's not his leg. So yeah, is that what it is?
No, she says that she goes his leg. She goes, that thing healed 10 years ago.
It's
I don't know.
mended. It's been mended.
That's from maybe tornado. Maybe that's what happened. Then they also find out. I want to point out something, and this is maybe out of sequence, but the Tin Man was cursed, and he chopped each one of his limbs off one by one, and that's where the Tin Man comes. This is very dark and scary.
I actually made a point to look up his specific story. When Dorothy was being interviewed and she mentioned all of that, I was like, I had no idea. Let me look this up. And so I read this whole thing about how he ended up becoming 10. Like, geez, it was very dark, but it also had a really nice message to it as well. And, you know, the OP was kind of mad that this original story wasn't put into the original, story. I mean, yeah, it's a little grotesque, but I think the message behind it afterwards, I thought it was pretty nice to have. So, but yeah, I made a point to look up his origin, and I was pretty surprised for what I read.
I would have said, though, at that point, speaking of that part with the Tin Man, because I was going to say that, if Dorothy would have told me that, I would have said she was crazy too. Come on, that was the story. That really did prove that she was a little out there, even for...
And Em's like kicking her under the table. Shut up, Dorothy, or they're going to keep you forever. Shut up. Just tell the main stuff. Just tell them a little bit.
Hello, Dorothy. How are you?
I wish I wasn't tied down.
Nothing to worry about.
What are those?
Oh, when you're ready, we'll just put them over your ears, and pretty soon they'll draw all those unpleasant dreams out of your head. Then when you wake up, you'll never be bothered by them again.
Anyway, Siskel and Ebert is absolutely ridiculous. So, in other words, are they going to be like, look at the Ten Commandments, be like, well, they didn't get Moses. They only got Charlton Heston to play the part. I mean, what is wrong with those two? That's all I have to say about them. They're absolutely ridiculous. It's not Judy Garland. Well, we're going to dig her up? You're going to clone her?
Wizard of Oz is just one of those movies that just shouldn't be altered according to them. And I guess that's just another way of saying, well, look, if Judy can't be in the movie because she passed away, then don't make Wizard of Oz. Like, that's just simple as it is.
But you know what? Back in the day, of course, had I not grown up with this movie, I would have said, yeah, like a sequel to The Wizard of Oz would be like a musical. But I think doing it in this way set it apart from the original.
It wasn't like, unless it was Silence of the Lambs, the musical, what were you going to talk about? The Tin Man cutting his legs off? Mombi cutting up ladies' heads so she could have multiple heads? Like, you wouldn't be singing it unless it was like a horror comedy. You know what the other thing is? I wanted to point out, at least this is what I got from it. I don't know what you guys got from it. Dorothy, she was traumatized by the tornado, but she wasn't exactly. The reason why she had problems sleeping and not getting functioning and stuff, because deep down inside her, she knew, whether it's fantasy in her own mind or not, her friends were in trouble, because in the back of her mind, she knew something was wrong. And this is the reason why it kept her up at night. It's like when I say, my child gets sick, or I know that we're struggling with something, I'm up at night. This is the reason why. It's not because she was so traumatized by the tornado itself. It's because she knew something in the pit of her stomach, something was wrong in Oz.
And who wouldn't want to get back to that place when you come back to this?
I agree with you. I wrote down, I was like, I would have a very hard time coping with my boring and beige life when I've been to Oz. Like, it's just none but farm. It's none but golden and gray. Like, the grass isn't even green over there. Like, also, Auntie M acting like I can't hear her talk to Uncle Henry about me. Like, girl, lower the voice if you're trying to do you want me to hear you and feel guilty? I don't know. But yeah, I was like, knowing that there is a world beyond ours out there, I would never be able to just sleep. If I one day witnessed somebody with like magical powers, I would go insane.
Right.
That I am not a part of that world, you know? Pun intended. Yeah. And how do you just forget and go back to your normal lives after something like that?
Listen, magicians, I'd be a hedge witch if I had to, because I would want that magic. Anybody that watches magicians, but
Okay, so the big part of this, of course, is we get to the sanitarium where Dorothy's going to have electric shock therapy. Yes, for anyone who hasn't seen this. We set up the villains, like we were saying earlier, the same actors. We have, of course, the head nurse is our witch Mombi, and the Gnome King is this doctor. Like we said, the Wheelers are there. So we get to Oz, right? And I have loved chickens all my life. The fact...
Me too. The wings, the thighs, the breast.
I think they are adorable. So the fact that Billina was the Toto, like we mentioned in this movie, I absolutely loved.
Oh, no.
It's just a yellow brick.
No, Billina, you don't understand. This was the Yellow Brick Road.
Oh.
It leads to the Emerald City.
It turns out that she was fake, but she also, Fairuza, had to work with about 30 live hens as well. But can I tell you, I don't know what they're talking about, because this chicken looks alive to me. The emotions, like if you forget yourself and you just fantasize in this movie, there's a chicken talking to you, I think.
So you were feeling the fantasy?
I was feeling the fantasy. And of course, they gave her this older voice. It's very like Luna from the Sailor Moon dub. You know, they don't keep up the roads here and just different things like that.
What are my taxes going for?
It's true. Okay, so what? Just so now we're touching on Billina. What do you think about the villain being stopped with Billina at the end and the egg?
Poison indeed.
Poison to gnomes.
I spent almost 20 minutes trying to figure out if there was some correlation with rocks and eggs and just the word gnome with eggs. Like, I didn't understand why particularly eggs. I was like, is it a protein thing? Is it because it's healthy food? I don't know. I was just trying to figure out why that's considered poison, and I couldn't find anything.
He was just vegan.
Yeah. We didn't really witness Billina going into Jack's head, but it's just funny how she just disappeared for a long time and nobody said a word. And so I sort of like the twist. She needed to be hidden in order for them to really get into the gnome's presence and all of that stuff. And I do love the subtle, I'm guessing this was considered the comedy part of the movie, was that anytime somebody mentioned the chicken, and I just love how the gnome, chicken, and then like the servant gets scared. I just thought that was funny.
Your Majesty, she has returned to Oz.
Good. Keep an eye on her. Well, what's the matter? What is it?
She has a chicken with her.
Chicken? Isn't that a chicken in there with you?
I know, it's just these little things in this whole scheme of like magic and sorceries and monsters. It's like don't forget that chicken. And I'm just like, it's just so funny. But yeah, I couldn't find anything. I didn't mind it. I don't think I really had like a strong opinion that was his, downfall, but what an interesting imagination.
That chicken line, by the way, David, oh my God, he has been saying
chicken
that, right?
in there with your stolen lunch pail. And she's like, Dorothy, Wheelers, Dorothy, Wheelers.
Oh, the lunch pail. Does that look like the inside of a loofah sponge to anybody? Oh, when she opens the lunch pail, which are these like basically Happy Meals in trees that grow in.
I associated it with like Costco. I was like, these are Costco lunches. Somebody or like food from an airport. Like you get on a plane, here's your ham sandwich for the flight. They just put a whole bunch of them in pails. I just wonder if there were like different sandwiches.
Because she's like, this one's a ham sandwich or something like that.
I know. I love the fact like we're we're going to Oz. It's a fantasy world, and they eat ham sandwiches. Like, can I get ham and cheese? Come on, now this is supposed to be a colorful like world here. I don't need it to be beige and boring like Kansas. Can I get some cheese on my sandwich, please?
That is a good. You should be able to order that.
What about the Gnome King's food, by the way? The drink looked horrifying and toxic that he offered Dorothy during their tea party, but the cookie thing looked pretty good up until he was like, "Oh, it's stagmite something," and
it was lime. It was a key lime pie,
but limestone,
and the liquid was melted silver. So if she drank that, she'd be dead.
I thought she would.
He's like, "I'm gonna die now, right now. End this right now."
Okay, so we set up that Oz is terrible, right? Oh, I did write this. Dorothy got there from air and now by sea. So if they continue this pattern, it could be like from
She's gonna walk
space.
into a fire?
I don't know. Jason goes to space. So the next biggest sequence, I would say, is the frickin' Wheelers. When you see that graffitied wall that says "Beware the Wheelers" in red, surrounded by the destroyed Oz, of course, but these stone statues, the Cowardly Lion, the beheaded dancer ladies, and then the buildup of the sound effects and the head terrified me as a child, but also at the same time was so fascinating to me, these creatures.
Oh, Cowardly Lion, what's happened to you?
Come here, chicken!
Over here, Dorothy! Wait, that way! The key! The key!
You have to come out sooner or later. And when you do, we'll tear you into little pieces and throw you in the deadly desert.
I haven't done anything to you.
Isn't that a stolen lunch pail in your hand? Isn't that a chicken in there with you? The Gnome King doesn't allow chickens anywhere in Oz.
Who's the Gnome King?
Who is the Gnome King? Who is the Gnome King?
Such creativity. I love how each of their limbs were ended with wheels and they were just running around like these hospital beds. Like, just take any kind of inanimate object and then turn it into something monstrous. I just found them to be so creative. I love their costume, the color schemes, their hair being...
color schemes. So 80s.
I get it. I mean, obviously, I wasn't scared of them watching it now, but just the sound of those wheels can be, it's just like Kruger's nails on like iron or metal. It really does give you this sense of dread hearing stuff like that, and what confidence when you are like, yes, I'm a villain. I don't need to sneak up on you. Yes, hear me coming. I'm coming your way. I want you to know that I am on my way to get you. Like that to me, yeah, I really enjoy it. And the laugh is very manic too. I really like that.
I was gonna say I got Pee Wee Herman vibes this time from the head wheeler who kind of talks through the peephole. Which, by the way, come on, that is the suspense. That running down that corridor to get the key. Which again, who would have thought that key fit in that hole? Even as a kid, I'm like, that key ain't gonna fit fit in there, Dorothy. But get your ass in there.
What a plan, though.
I would have tried to find something close and stabbed him in the eye and said, next. You gotta exert your authority on these wheelers.
Billina. The people have said this. The wheelers couldn't honestly grab you, but they must be able to.
Get up and
they do, right? In the behind the scenes, I've even seen the costume people. They stood up on their legs, but
was the costume design giving you like Jesus Christ Superstar meets a little bit of the Wiz? I don't know. I've just felt like it was very colorful and very.
I got Wiz vibes for sure. They were very similar to the Munchkins sort of palette for sure. Yeah,
that's what
I got. But also a gay rocker band of motorcycles.
Why do we always have to be the villain? I'm not your father.
No, I am your father.
They are fabulous. They got the hair, they got the squeak, the whatever they do. That's the thing that gets me. They communicate in squeaks too sometimes. So
yeah, that little call he made was like, oh, okay, they got their own language and stuff.
That's what you know. So we meet TikTok, gentleman. I mean, this gorgeous character. I love him too. So sweet.
TikTok. He's a little cocky and a little bit of a shader. Like he read Jack I don't know how many times, and there were just moments where he would just point out some of the like that one official line. He was like, do you understand what I just said to you? I understand it better than you understand it. Like, don't question my intelligence.
I love it.
No, I adore TikTok so much.
I am only a machine, so I cannot be sorry or happy no matter what happens.
Where's the scarecrow? And what's happened to the Emerald City?
Answer her. Answer
The Gnome
her.
King! The Gnome King! He conquered the Emerald City! He took all the emeralds! He turned everyone to stone!
What about the scarecrow?
There's only one person that knows where the scarecrow is. And that's Princess Princess Mombi!
Princess Mombi? I don't remember her.
Take us to Mombi.
No! Please, let me go. Please. Oh, let me go. Please, let me go. Let me go.
All right, TikTok, let him go.
Behave yourself now.
I will behave. I'll behave. Behave. I'll be home. You behave.
I wrote this down specifically. This is so nuanced, but the fact that they designed him to walk in this waddle, way, and paired with the music that they were doing, like, I get the fantasy, right? And I think it really caters to children. If I was a child watching a character waddle that way, like, that's fun to watch. I just like that sort of touch with him because he is like a one-man army and very serious, but they give him this like fun little walk. And so it's also the thing, like, he's not going to be sneaking up on anybody anytime soon, but I just think that it's also sort of like marching in a way when he walks too.
Yes, a march.
Yeah. I just found his character to be
I really like this character too.
When he's out of it, basically, she has to, switch each gear and wheel them up. Even as a kid, I mean, you don't want to overwind something, but she barely wound those things up. That was going to die in 1 second. And guess what? He did.
He did. I watched that specifically. I'm like, she didn't really wind him up that much. So it made perfect sense. But he explains it that I used up all my energy fighting the wheelers off.
Oh my god!
But she also says, wouldn't have made more sense you be able to wind yourself up, make you that you can wind yourself up?
I mean, he couldn't even get up if he tripped. Like, I mean, I think he's a very formidable character. Like, I think that having him around and protecting you is awesome. But at the same time, they were taking care of him more often than not.
I like his little Pringles man mustache.
The Pringles man mustache. Get to the castle. When he's spinning those arms around, I love it. And I do love that at the end during the parade, he gets the C-3PO treatment where they buff him.
Oh, so when I look at that, I say he gets the Johnny 5 treatment. Because remember in part 2 when he turned gold?
And he looked fabulous.
Yeah, they gave him or did they just wipe off the dirt?
I wish we got more close-ups of him like that.
He's just a cool character. He's good, and he has humanity, even though he says he's trying to play.
Well,
cool,
when he cried the motor
he continued
oil?
to tell everyone that he didn't have emotion. Like, you can't scare me. I have no feeling. Blah blah blah. And then yes, he definitely cries. But it's his loyalty to Dorothy is just what I think is awesome, and the fact that the Scarecrow even warned him, like, you're gonna meet this girl. She's gonna come here with this key. You need to be by her side, 100%. He didn't even bat an eye. He was like, I'm at your service. Done. Like, TikTok was it.
Does time pass faster in Oz too? Because he was covered dirty, and I want to say, yeah, cobwebs. He did have a few cobwebs.
It doesn't. Fast forward, she goes to the Gnome King. He said, remember, the tornado was 6 months ago, so 6 months worth of dust. He said you were so, you wanted to get back home so badly that you lost the slippers, and it gave him the power to take over Oz. So 6 months of dust is 6 months of dust.
Yeah.
And 6 months for the Gnome King to get fabulous.
Oh, he was feeling himself. This was a man who was...
With the slippers?
I'm not going to say he was on the DL, right? I think, and like, we can broaden that whole thing as wide as we want. Like, if he wants to wear them, that's cool. It's just his form of masculinity and power, and then he's just got this undertone of just like, I still like to, look good and pretty, and I'm living for all of it. And it's not just because of the obvious. I would never call him gay or whatever, but just the fact that he has this duality of just being so manly, and then, like, it's the wiggle of the shoes now. Come on, like,
it.
Given fashion show, like, yep, they're mine now. He. Like, yeah, I just love that.
I swear he even rubbed his legs up with the other shoe. Like, he was really feeling himself.
I was waiting for that leg to cross.
I mean, it was amazing. You know what? Look at these, Dorothy Gale.
Listen, we all do it. I know, even straight men, let's be honest. When you put on something that makes you feel sexy or good or whatever, like, I put on cowboy boots, and even though I'm a tall person, I like the fact that it gives me a little bit more lift, and the boots do click, like, on the ground, and
you want to click, huh?
So listen, he's giving daddy vibes, but, like, he's vicious.
But he plays that kind of like, oh, Dorothy Gale, don't cry. Play my game, and you're going to die anyway, but play my game.
Oh my God. It's so small, but the ornament game is my favorite part of this movie. I just love the idea of this game, going in and having to, like, figure out this puzzle, and then when she figures it out, and it's just one by one, let's get them all. I love that game so much. I would have lost, though. Oh my God, I would never have chosen green.
I would have been there for hours.
But remember that if we're talking about it, everything goes back to Emerald, the Emerald City. You stole my emeralds. Green, green, green. So I guess that would, if you could pick up on that. But we need to talk about Mombi first.
What do you think?
I think you're very beautiful.
I should hope so. Just who might you be? What are you doing here?
I'm Dorothy Gale.
Dorothy Gale.
What's happened to the Scarecrow?
Come nearer to me. The Gnome King took the Scarecrow and all the emeralds back to his mountain and turned everyone else to stone. You will be rather attractive. One day. Not at all beautiful, you understand, but you'll have a certain prettiness. Different from my other heads. I believe I'll lock you in the tower for a few years till your head is ready. And then I'll take it.
I believe you will not!
So we go from TikTok to Mombi, and she is on this throne playing one of those, I don't even know, what are those old instruments? It's an old string, like harpish kind of.
Oh God, I can't think of the name. I know what it is, but I can't think of the name.
I want to call it the gazelle, but it's not. And she's played by kind of this very tired,
an heiress, a Paris Hilton.
Yeah, honestly, she's
day.
Gorgeous palace, right? Another nightmare of a place for me. The heads. And for the first time, again, I'm so glad we get to rewatch these movies. I always thought when she gets to Mombi's head in the case, her original head, everybody, I always thought she just was moaning in like a different like language. I never realized she was going, Dorothy Gale! I thought she was going, all these years, like just a spell. She's saying Dorothy Gale. Dorothy Gale.
Dorothy
Yeah, that's the first thing. I don't know if she recognized her just from around the way. Like, oh, I heard about you, bitch. Like, I'm gonna watch out for you. And it seems that she was the only head that knew who she was. But yeah, Mombi, I honestly, watching this when I was younger, even hearing the word Mombi didn't really trigger anything for me. It wasn't until I started watching all the other variations out there, the TV shows, the sci-fi movies and all that, where I really understood that Mombi was just like that side witch that nobody thinks about but is more deadlier than anyone out there. Like, yeah, just her first head just giving that sort of camouflage of, yeah, this is a safe place, like you're in. The other thing is too is that they made her blonde. You know, the blondes were supposed to
be pure,
trust
yeah,
with, you know, or yeah, whatever. Anyway, so I love the villain Mombi. I love the fact that she didn't waste no time to show her true colors. She was like, come with me, child, your friends stay here are my heads, be scared, and I'm gonna use yours as one too. Like, she didn't waste no time.
And she was shady. She said to Dorothy, you're not really beautiful, but there's a certain prettiness about you. I'll let you grow a little before I chop your head off. Bitch.
Yeah, she was like, you're not going to grow up to be cute, but there'll be something about it that's very unique. Yeah. I was like, damn. But also, I wanted to ask you guys, I want to say that the Wheelers definitely set Dorothy up to get captured because, you know, he's all captured and scared. And then he's like, tell us who knows where the scarecrow is. Well, the only person who knows is Prince Mombi. Like, that was a setup because we were already warned about her from the Gnome King. Like, oh, she won't make it past Mombi. I already know that.
Mombi.
But then in the movie, and as I was watching, I was like, well, how does she come into contact with her? Like, so my question is like, would she have found out about the Gnome King and the mountain if it wasn't for Mombi? Like, was she really the only person who knew Scarecrow's whereabouts? Or, you know, like, it's funny that she also gave up that information. I guess she was very cocky that she wouldn't get away. But it's just funny how she gave her the information. So it's like, was it a setup or was he being like, damn, I gotta come clean because he's hurting me and I have to tell the truth, you know?
A little bit of both, I think.
He always gave me that, ooh, I'm so scared of everything kind of. So I always thought he just gave it up. But that actually makes sense because they know this girl goes to things that she travels for her quests.
Let's be honest. If he wanted to, he could have just used the ruby slippers and got rid of her immediately. This is where we, like, when we do Thundercats, we talk about Mumra could literally just kill the Thundercats in a certain way and not have to go through all this theatrical stuff that he does. It's like a cat and mouse game. He enjoyed the game because he could have just said, send her back now. Click, click, click. But he implies she has to say that she wants to go home, so maybe he doesn't have the power over her because he
I think she has to say it.
Words and I will send you home. So in other words, maybe there is that thing. Maybe she does have some kind of, because she has a link to the slippers or whatever, or she knows she's part of the world. She knows what Oz used to be. The other thing was, I don't know, remember when the Wizard of Oz, where she had to go that yellow brick road everywhere? She was literally landed, saw her old house, which I thought was really cool. Again, the old house.
Yes, the old house.
Loved it. And then she sees in the distance the Emerald City. She never saw the Emerald City in the beginning. In the first one, she had to go forever and meet every Tom, Dick, and Harry across the way, get fireballs thrown at her, sleep with her hands between her legs because she was with a bunch of men she didn't know.
She's like, look, in this book, like, I altered universes and things are just a lot closer now. You know, we're in San Francisco now. This is no LA. Like, we are in San Francisco. Everything is right in front of you. Like, we've changed things since the tornado.
Well, she went over the Deadly Desert, which was, by the way, you said Thundercats. That is Thundercats, the Deadly Desert.
But she knew about it. It means it was there in my mind. She knew it was there before. She said it surrounds. It's almost like how they say Antarctica is really the whatever for the planet Earth and we live on the flat Earth thing and all that. Like, it's the Deadly that surrounds Oz.
So at this point, I'm assuming the setup is, like we said, no Toto, Billina, the Tin Man, TikTok.
Everyone's accounted for as far as we know what happened to them. We know that they're either stoned or they're been taken.
But their equivalent, I'm saying too, like the Scarecrow's equivalent would be Jack. And then I'm guessing Gump, which we meet also in Mombi's palace. I guess he's an animal, so it would be the Cowardly Lion. But is that kind of the thing? Like, like we're getting here. Replacement characters, but / invoke the feelings.
Well, again, like I said, it's a soft reboot. Like they're still giving those elements in the outline of the original story, just changing it a little darker to fit a different audience or whatever vision that, you know, the writers had. I mean, obviously they went more closely to the book. So I guess these characters were meant to come around, you know, either way. But yeah, I enjoyed Jack. The mystery of his mom I thought was really cute. He was a sweetheart. Also, the choreography of the way that he walked, you know, I thought was very authentic. Just a bunch of sticks, just, you know, put together. And just the idea of like, I was meant to scare her. And then when I did, like, she didn't like that. So she just locked me up and made me alive so I can like suffer in this attic.
Here's what we have to do.
I like Jack. I thought he was... I don't know, there was something about when he was running towards the Gump when it was taking off, and he had to like hold on for dear life for a while. I thought that was funny, but so terrified when he almost got eaten. The way that he was screaming, give it up to the voice actor on this. He was giving all the emotions. I felt everything from Jack. He was cool. And Gump was just, you know, a realist. He was totally like Curb Your Enthusiasm. He was just like, look, girl, I don't have arms. Like, I can't turn. He was like, I've never even tried to fly. I didn't even know I had arms. You want me to like, he was dope. I love him.
I don't know how he moved.
He was down for it. He was like, okay, I'll try.
I'll play your game. I'll play your game. All I could think of before we just get past Mombi is in the headroom, like you were mentioning, that thing about her face, she'll grow into it. Now, forgive me, but we all know what Fairuza Balk grew up to look like. All I could think of is her eyes, those piercing eyes she has. If she was one of those heads in that glass container, forget Mombi.
I think that Fairuza's good at playing those parts for sure. Crap, I'm trying to think of the movie that she was in. I'd have to look it up. I may come back to it. But what I wanted to say about the heads, though, I thought that was a very scary sequence. The music paired with all of them screaming and, you know, the body getting up like Frankenstein with the hands out. Like, all of that I thought was really done well. But I wanted to know, like, were the heads screaming as sort of like an alarm system? Like, oh, she's here. Or were they screaming for help? Like, you wonder if the heads by themselves are still themselves until she puts them on, you know, as opposed to her original head, you know? So I wonder if they were screaming for assistance, for help, or were they just like, she's here, get her, you know, intruder, you know, she stole something, you know?
That is terrifying, actually. It makes it even worse.
Yeah.
I always got the intruder thing, but if they are screaming for help, oh my god. And then later on, somehow the spell was reversed, because when we see Mombi in her little wheelable jail cell, they're gonna parade her all around town. I love this. One of the dancer women, one of the heads, is explaining everything, giving the exposition dump.
Yeah.
so they got their heads back. I guess they just...
It was very stoic. I liked it.
Yeah. So the Fairuza Balk thing, so she was Adam Sandler's love interest in The Waterboy. And I gotta say that was one of the versatile roles that I got from her, where she didn't play somebody to be feared, or if her character was like always angry. Like, she was a little quirky or whatever, but she smiled throughout the whole thing. She was very lovable and very loyal to him when they officially got together. So I would say, you know, she's good at playing an evil person or just someone who's like mad or scary, but at the same time there's this happy side of her that I wish they had showed more, and especially with like her playing the worst witch. I just thought she was the
worst
sweetest
witch,
thing. Yeah, so
which we did on this show, by the way, in the first or second season. But you're right, in this she's like, of course it looks like her, but you would never think that she would grow up to be Nancy in The Craft and like do that performance, because honestly I think this Dorothy is very sweet. I might prefer her over Judy Garland, in the sense of not...
How dare you! Siskel and Ebert will rise from their grave! Rise, I tell you! Drag you to hell!
It's true. I got the button.
Rise from your grave.
Dorothy is so iconic in the original one, and if I want musical, Judy Garland, of course. But character-wise, I prefer this Dorothy over the oh my of the 1930s of Aunt Em, you know, like that kind. Like, this one was a kid. This was a kid who was strong enough in herself.
Just
I
her
that.
Being able to think of a plan to create Gump in itself is freaking genius. The moment she found out that there was a powder of life, she was like, I know how we're getting out of here. Brava. I just love how she put all of that together.
Well, maybe she could sprinkle some on Uncle Henry, get him to build the damn house then.
No, they did finish it, thank God, right?
Give
he
him life.
had a little bit of life, and I actually enjoyed that they gave him more of a story than him just being this side man in the first one, because he didn't do shit in the first one. But in this one, they actually gave him a little bit like, I'm distraught. I lost my house. It's up to me, the man of the house, to like fix things and get everything back. And I've got this woman taking care of me because of my broke leg. And it just, he's down on his luck, but like he got
broke leg.
He got inspired and was like, yeah. But he was the first one to run to her and be like, God, I almost gave up. Like, thank God you're here. And he's like, I'm gonna fix this house for y'all. I love his
I agree with you. I didn't feel the actress who played Aunt M. I didn't feel like
Piper Laurie.
I didn't feel anything from her for Dorothy
until the end. At the end, I did.
I felt her just playing the part. I didn't feel the connection. I didn't think of her as a loving, like worried about her. I just felt that she was a really well trained actress. I didn't get that, even though it was a small role. I didn't get like this real connection to Dorothy, like really caring about her and anything. Maybe at the end, but I didn't feel it.
It's because she saw the uncle running and she said, I guess you could pick Dorothy up at so you've been lying all this time, huh?
Well, maybe, but she was like hanging out.
He ran, he picked her up.
If you have a farm I can go hang out on?
No, I think at the end, when she gave the smile to Dorothy and told her to go outside, I was like, okay. Well, she said, if you aren't working on the farm, you're not good enough for me.
He did run to her when.
That's what I'm saying. So what happened? Now you got me
depression. Yeah.
Oh, well, depression.
It's the solitude.
It's the total solitude. So people, my mind, when something happens with me, you can do one of two things. Like, let's say, God forbid, your house is burning down. You can either shut down and die in the house, or you can grab your family and whatever things that you think are valuable, like your paperwork, and run out of the house. There's action, and there's people that shut down. He shut down. He shut down when Dorothy had these mental problems. He shut down when they're facing the fact that they have no money and the winter is coming. Aunt M came up a little bit of a bitter bitch, to be honest with you, to me. I just don't like her. I'm Siskel and Ebert and I hate them all. No, I'm just kidding.
This time around as an adult, and I always love to bring this up, ambiance. That full feeling that I got this time, even at the end when we have Dorothy's home and Toto and they're playing the pan out with the farm and everything, I got really good like ambiance with this movie.
Well, the music was beautiful.
Oh, the music.
I love the score at the end.
Haunting. Beautiful, but haunting.
No pun intended. The fences were mended. He's working on the house.
Yeah, magically it's done.
There's a lightheartedness. Dorothy is now either learning to control the voices in her head, or she has been vindicated in her own mind, so she doesn't have to prove anything to anybody else. Can I ask you something? When at the end, when they're back in Kansas, the head nurse, aka Mombi, she's been taken away by police. So when Ozma said to her, "Those are the people that they've damaged and lock in the basement."
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, David. I forgot to mention that, and I wanted to.
Fry her little brain like a scrambled egg.
Because they hear screams. They heard screams in the sanitarium, and Ozma does say, those are all the patients, very American Horror Story asylum. Yeah, the damaged patients in the cellar. So I do like that she got what was coming to her. It went on fire, they said. Oh, so she did go through flames. She went through flames and then the sea. Wow.
So I want to explore more about the Gnome King. What did you think of him, Rob? Was he giving you legend devil vibes?
The Gnome King reminded me a lot of the Goblin King. It was just this hierarchy of power, the little minions, the hands that opened up the runway was like the helping hands. And just this idea of like, go through my labyrinth and go through this land of Oz to reach the end. Like, it gave me so much Goblin King, but he was refined. He had his pipe, like this was clear British royalty here. And
his tea party, the tea time with the cake.
Yeah. And again, I enjoyed the fact that he just enjoyed playing games, but then like when it got real, he was angry and he was like, I'm just gonna eat you all. I'm tired of this. Like, you guys are not supposed to win. Like, he's such a spoiled sport. Like, Dorothy was like, girl, you just said we can go home if we get it right. She just is so gullible.
Yeah.
To just think that this Gnome King was gonna really like uphold his end of the bargain. She was like, I'll play your little game. I'm gonna win. And then hopefully you don't, back down. But yeah, I thought that was I thought the Gnome King was good. Was he a better villain than like the Wicked Witch of the West or Mombi? No, I don't get scary vibes from him.
He felt justified. He felt justified because they harvested his gems and jewels, but he didn't care who he hurt, because we know that, what's the expression? Power corrupts, but ultimate power ultimately corrupts, kind of a thing, where those slippers really, gave him the power.
Gave him the confidence.
He was waving them up and down and shaking them.
That was the best. But did you think Dorothy at one point thought she should have threw some water on him? It worked the last time. She's telling all of them, gather water. And Billina's like, what? By the way, another Mombi thing, Mombi's Wheeler chariot, where she whips them to go faster. Love that. I just love that she's got the balls to make a Wheeler chariot.
That's nothing I haven't seen at a club before, but anyway.
Yeah, you've seen that happen? I mean, it is one of my favorite movies of all time. I could definitely say that. It's
really?
Up there, honestly. And I don't know if I'm watching it with rose-tinted glasses, but I think it held up fantastic. I don't know if David's kids or any other kids would watch this nowadays, but the visuals looked great. Whatever they used for Billina, like I said earlier, was
fetish.
Oh, the shoe fetish.
Chicken fetish.
Chicken fetish.
Is that a chicken in there with you, Ryan?
But why did he drop them, by the way, so nicely at the end?
Well, that's the refined part. It's like, not to say that he's not a monster, but I just got this sense of, because I wondered the same thing. I was watching him closely, and it's like, I've lost, I've died, I get it. I'm not even gonna bother. Like, it's just not.
So was he playing the violin on the Titanic? Was he playing?
Yeah, it's like I'm not having fun anymore. I'm just gonna put him down. Like, I did all of this for amusement, but like, I'm about to die. Here you go.
That was so sweet of him, wasn't it?
And so he scared the egg out of Billina.
Yes.
He scared her, so she laid an egg.
So was that her story arc of like, I just needed to be scared in order to comply and do my responsibility on the farm? Like, I just need to be scared.
Honestly, if it didn't scare her that they were going to kill her, I'm so glad she decided to stay.
She said at one point, I'd take my chances back on the farm.
Yeah, but now she's like, oh, hell no.
I wouldn't have taken my chances back at the farm. Hell no.
She's going to live in that palace with Ozma, right? I mean, that's... Which... Ozma. You won't believe this. Maybe you will, actually. It's fascinating.
You see her in the mirror?
No. Ozma talks to me? No, thank God.
Does she? She's like, you need more viewers on the podcast, Ryan. Go through the mirror.
She picks up that chicken. I'll take it. There was a alternative character to Dorothy that actually starred in, I believe, these two books that it was based on. It was a young male character. Years later, it turns out that Ozma was this male character. And she was hiding the whole time that she was the princess or whatever.
Yeah, I read that the kid's name was Tip. So Mombi changed Ozma into a boy when she was a baby, and they touched on this in the Emerald City series that didn't really make it to a full season. One of the biggest storylines was that you meet Mombi's daughter, and then all of a sudden she has like this friend who is a boy or whatever, and they sort of bond and kind of hint on a little bit of like romance, I guess, when they grow up. But then all of a sudden, this daughter turns into a boy. And it just was a storyline. So it definitely ties into the original material. So yes, that is definitely a thing. I did hear about that.
Rob's recommendations.
I tried to dig deep into the vault to find obscure titles that might match with this type of tone of movie, but I did come up with some stuff that I hadn't seen in a while, so I would say that if you're in the same boat, maybe it'd be fun to revisit these or maybe check them out for the first time. So, if you did enjoy Return to Oz, I would say that a movie you should definitely watch is The Worst Witch. This is just the counterpart to, well, I shouldn't say counterpart, but it's sort of like the sister movie of Fairuza Balk in her witch days. Same lovable little girl, and it's such a really fun story to watch. This underdog just sort of come up in adversity. The head mistress is very similar to Mombi. You just sort of get the same vibes.
Mrs. Garrett is in it.
Yeah, Miss Garrett's in it. So, The Worst Witch. And then I also said Labyrinth. And again, this is more of my comparison with a lot of elements I saw in this movie. It's almost the exact same thing, really. I mean, just the land in itself is a character, and I think that stands strong, but you meet all of these fascinating characters along the way. I mean, Labyrinth, she still got her clan of Wizard of Oz folks, right? With Ludo and Sir Didymus and Snuggle, like all of those, or Huggle, excuse me, Huggle. So yeah, it kind of fits sort of the same thing as well. The other one, I don't know if there's access to this movie, but it aired on Disney every single weekend, and that is the 3-part 9-hour movie of Alice Through the Looking Glass. I think with the costumes, the music, the character likenesses, and just the journey of it all fits the tone of this movie. I think you would enjoy that just as well as Return to Oz. If you did not like Return to Oz, watch the original. That is definitely to your issue. Just watch the original musical. I also said Lemony Snicket, A Series of Fortunate Events.
I could see that.
I mean, yes, both movies are darker, but I think there's still more of a whimsical, less horror vibe in Lemony Snicket than Return to Oz. And so if it's something that you don't want your children to watch, I think this gives it that Wednesday feel. Where you're getting sort of that dark villainy type thing, but it's done in a fun, happier way. So yeah, Lemony Snicket I think would be an alternative choice. And then I threw in Hocus Pocus. Yes, I just, So that is my recommendations for Return to Oz.
I cannot believe this summer is continuing like this. We're flying literally through films at this point. The summer's over. Just go back to work and school already. Because, no, I'm just joking. My God. Rob, when you're not hanging out over here, when can the lovely people find you at?
Currently on Instagram, I'm still going through my journey very, very slowly, but I'm still going through my journey of cataloging and reviewing every movie that I watched this year, whether it's a rewatch or new viewing, whether it's in the theater or at home. On Instagram, I am under Rob the Movie Geek, and I basically just give small snippets of a point scale of 1 through 5, reviewing each movie that I watch with a follow-up added notes on my Letterboxd account. So link is all on the Instagram page. Again, that's Rob the Movie Geek.
And of course, they will be in the description box below. Someone whose handle I didn't get wrong is David at Universal Appeal 2020, all one word, and the Radical Retro Rewind podcast, one word, on Instagram. If you've noticed another Instagram account recently that popped up with Radical Retro Rewind, it's to redirect all the people I've been telling for 3 years to go to the wrong Instagram handle. Always just check the link below. That always has the right one. So,
oh lordy.
With that being said, thank you both for being here. This was a blast. I think it seems like all three of us enjoyed and still held up with the film. So,
yeah, I had a great time watching this again. So, yes, I highly recommend it.
Did anybody see the other movie with Mila Kunis? What is it? The actual.
Yes, Oz and
Magic,
Great and Powerful or something.
Yeah,
Oz, like that. So, yeah, I had a great time, of course, and I hope everyone enjoys our little review here.
So, Radical Ones, we will be back next week with Thundercats reviews, and then the following week, an all-new sword and sorcery film. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The craft does have a cult following of its own. Not only 90s fans, but also witchcraft fans, Fairuza Balk, Return to Oz fans. Wait, is her name Fairuza Balk?
Are you thinking of Veruca Salt from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
Okay, I just combined
she's a very different name that I cannot even probably pronounce, so I'm not even going to, but doesn't do a lot of movies or anything since The Craft. She just picks and chooses what she likes.
I have to apologize to this actress for calling her basically Fairuza Salt from Willy Wonka, but we do love her from Return to Oz growing up. I see the name. I see it. I just don't. Okay, please forgive me. Fairuza Balk?
I don't know. And there's going to be a bunch of people that are like diehard fans, and they'll be like crucifying right now. Your effigy will be burned outside someplace. They'll be calling the Four Corners to punish you for saying her name wrong.
Okay, I'm going to attempt it one more time. Fairuza Balk.
Okay.
Nev Campbell, everybody. Nev Campbell.
Yes, Nev Campbell for the win.
Calling the Four Corners or whatever, which is not on my list, funny enough.
I know. I
Maybe because you can't say the actress's name. Maybe that's why Veruca Salt.
Fairuza Balk.
Anyway, you ruined it. You ruined Christmas. How dare you?
There's a few things in the new year that we were going to do in the comeback episode. I'm still working on my pronunciation of...
Your pronunciation? Your pronunciation?
As you can see, things haven't changed since we've picked back up. Still can't speak the English language. Possibly still can't say Fairuza. It's the first show back.
I refuse to that any more power.
Partake this.
I'm not giving it any power. I will not speak your name.
I am following her now on Instagram with the Radical Retro podcast. She is an artist now. She posts a lot of turkeys, I noticed. But that might have been because it was Thanksgiving time when I added her. But she has a lot of things for sale. She's got paintings for sale. She's got artwork for sale. Artwork you would imagine.
Do you like scary movies?
Well, that's why I'm watching it.
What's your favorite Fairuza Balk movie, Ryan?
Wait, how do you know my name? Return to Oz.
Oh, well that's easy to say, isn't it? Can you pronounce her name yet?
Listen, I'm working on it. Clearly I can't speak the English language.
What about the Craft Legacy?
What about it?
Well, you didn't seem to enjoy the sequel too much, and she ended up at the end. Why haven't you did one of her films yet?
That's just because I'm learning to say her name right before we tackle any films on the Radical Retro Rewind podcast.
The Craft, Worst Witch, Waterboy, There's No Fish Food in Heaven.
I've never even heard of that movie.
Did you get my letter?
That was you a few weeks ago? The note? You know what I did last summer?
Uh-huh. Want to know if you live to see another? Make sure she's on the list soon.
But it stars a certain actress by the name of Fairuza Balk.
Perfect.
God, the Radical Ones, if you've been a listener for the previous year, you might have heard me pronounce this woman's name in various ways.